Hi, I'm Philip from Optimize Lab, and in this video I'm going to be talking about a very important issue, which is click fraud. Specifically, how to identify and help prevent click fraud within your account. Now, to start off with, what is click fraud? Click fraud is when malicious users go onto Google's search engine and search for particular keywords and then click on the ads of advertisers that are serving ads for those keywords. And they're not doing that in order to purchase the products or services from those companies. They're doing it intentionally to waste the advertising budget of those companies, because every time they click an ad, it's costing that company money through their Google Ads campaign. So how do we firstly identify this, and how do we begin to come up with a solution for this? Well, every single Google Ads account will have a number of metrics that you can take a look at, which will allow you to very quickly identify how much click fraud there is going on in your account. So we're looking at an example account here, and this account, if we look at these columns that have been added, we've got invalid clicks here, and also another column, general invalid clicks. So what is an invalid click? An invalid click is a click that Google has identified as being either a repetitive click, perhaps from a well-meaning person who's just clicking your ad many, many times, and you're not going to get charged for every single one of those clicks. It could be bot traffic that is browsing the web automatically, browsing websites, clicking on ads, or it could also be malicious traffic. People could have designed specific bots to attack specific websites within the search engine for search terms, and a variety of other modes for people or computers to be clicking on ads when they're not prospective, genuine clients. And so that will be included in this column here. Now, it's important to note that because these are clicks that have been identified by Google, you are not being charged for these invalid clicks. Because Google's been able to quickly pick up on those, they will have automatically refunded you for these clicks so that it won't appear in your ad spend. So that's the first thing to look at. Now, it's important to note that although Google does put in effort to help identify many of these clicks, a lot of these methods will unfortunately slip by Google's safeguards. And so the malicious actors who carry out these clicks on ads, they have ways of changing their IP address, using VPNs in order to get around Google's safeguards and continue to waste advertisers' budgets. So it's very important to be vigilant in your account or the account of the customer that you're working for, and look for any anomalies in the account, anything that stands out as being suspicious. So we've got a very good example in this account. This account has been seeing a certain degree of click fraud, and that has had some negative impacts in the account that we are working to resolve. So we can see, looking at the data, there's a very clear anomaly to start with, which is between over this period, there have been no conversions. And there's generally been fewer conversions through the account. So when that starts happening, when you start seeing fewer conversions than you typically have seen in within a week period, that can set off alarm bells and get you thinking, okay, so what is the reason for that? And there could be a very normal reason for that. It could be something completely unrelated to any click fraud whatsoever. It could be just variance, for example, week to week. It could be that there have been some changes on the landing page, and for whatever reason the conversion rate has gone down after those changes. It could also be other changes within Google Ads, for example, to the targeting, anything else that's being tested. That could also be the cause. It's not necessarily click fraud, but that should get you into the mode where you begin taking a look to check, is there anything suspicious happening? So taking a look at the more in depth into the data, we might find a little bit more to give us an indication of what the cause is. Now, another very useful tab to look at is the search term report, and you can find that in Insights and Reports and by clicking on search terms here. Now, on this particular page, I have hidden the search terms that we're looking at just for the client's confidentiality. And I'm looking at these particular search terms because one thing in this account which became very apparent, which was that the malicious actors carrying out click fraud were using the same search term over and over again. And therefore, we were seeing a lot more traffic for a search term that typically did not get a huge amount of traffic. And you can see in this chart, you can see the volume of clicks for this term picking up. Now, all of these terms are, here are the same term, and then there's a couple longer tail terms as well. And so there's a lot of repetitive traffic coming from this term that wasn't coming previously. And there are some other metrics that are very, very important and useful to look at. So to start off with, there's a very low number of conversions, of course, coming from these terms because it is fraudulent click activity. So we're not going to see necessarily conversions coming through unless the malicious actor is filling out the form in order to make it look like genuine traffic. But in this case, that hasn't been happening. And we can see something very, very interesting, which is that the click-through rate for these terms is extremely high, 59%. Now, for those people who have a lot of experience with Google Ads, you'll know that 59% click-through rate over a large volume of, or relatively large volume of data is very, very unrealistic. Very few keywords you're going to ever see get a 59% click-through rate unless it's your own branded keyword. So that is a big red flag, and it guarantees that there's something fraudulent happening there. The cost per click is also lower for these fraudulent clicks than it is for general clicks. And so you can see a lot of changes in the data that indicate there's something different happening here than there are with the other searches and other keywords that are happening within the account. So we can see here the traffic dropped off when negative keywords were added in order to block those malicious terms. So if you're seeing any very anomalous data happening within the account, those are the types of things you want to look for. And then if you are seeing it coming from particular keywords, and those keywords, generally speaking, haven't been converting or generally wouldn't be high converting terms within your campaign, one way you can help to fix that is to add those keywords as negative keywords and block the traffic straight away in your account. Now, another way to help reduce the amount of fraudulent traffic being generated by your campaigns is to use a third-party solution. And we're looking at an example here, which is ClickCease, and they're one of the market leaders. This is not a sponsored video, but they're just one of the service providers that I use for clients in order to help reduce fraudulent traffic, and it can be very useful to use. And the way these types of services use is that they monitor the traffic coming from organic sources and also from ads, and monitor the IP addresses and the types of behavior of those users, where they're coming from and how often they are clicking ads and how often they're visiting the website and spending time on the website. And by doing that, people who have very suspicious behavior or IP addresses that have very suspicious behavior can be blocked. If those visitors are coming from a particular country, then those countries can be blocked if they're not countries where you would typically get a lot of clients from, or business or sales from. And so just looking at the example data here, we can see the types of locations that the traffic's coming from. In this case, it's narrowed down, in this example, only to the United Kingdom, because traffic from other sources have been blanket blocked. And we can see the reasons for IP addresses being blocked. So for this time range, it's for using a VPN. You can block users who are using a virtual proxy network, because that's something that malicious actors will very often do. And you can see you can block people who have bounced. You can see you can block people who are outside of your geo-targeting, people who are using known fraudulent devices, and things of that nature. So this can be a very, very effective way of limiting the amount of fraudulent traffic that you get. Now, this is not a foolproof solution, and that's very important to note. And the reason for that is very, very reactive. In order to block a particular IP address, that IP address has to have already clicked on your ad. And so one drawback is you will always get, unfortunately, a certain amount of fraudulent clicks on your ads. The question is, how quickly can you block those IP addresses to prevent the repeated clicks on those ads and repeatedly wasting the budget. Now, if we look here at some of the settings, in this example, some of those rules for blocking IP addresses are if it goes above 3 clicks within a 7-day period, or for example 4 clicks here within a 60-day period. And so by adjusting these settings, you can tighten up the restrictions and help limit any fraudulent activity that is currently occurring. In ClickCease, they give you the option to suggest rules, and it's very crucial here that for some industries, the recommendation is to block people after a single click. If we look, for example, for the locksmith industry, where there's a huge amount of click fraud, it's rife with that type of malicious activity, we can see it gives the recommendation of blocking all clicks after the first click. So if a user clicks on the website once, they'll be blocked from clicking on the ad multiple times over and over again once their IP address is added to the campaign. And that shouldn't block customers, because typically in this type of sector, a customer will click on the website once, review the details, and make a decision right there and then. It's not like, for example, an e-commerce website where they may need to come back to purchase additional products on a regular basis. In this instance, people have an emergency that they need a locksmith for, and they'll typically only need to visit the website once. So these are the types of controls that can be tightened up. You also have the option of blocking IPs outside of a country. That can be very useful. You can block people, again, who are using a VPN. You can block people based on their behavior and based on whether or not they bounce from the website. So you can select how long they've been on the website, and if they are spending a very little time on the website before leaving, then you can go ahead and block those users. So hopefully that's very useful in giving you an idea of what click fraud is and whether or not, giving you the methods for checking is that happening in your account, and then if it is happening, the solutions in order to help fix click fraud in your account. If you are facing click fraud and you need assistance with fixing that and maintaining your account to help minimize click fraud, feel free to get in contact with us at contact@optimizelab.com. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and thank you for watching.